Today we're going to replace rear brake pads on a 1995 Ford Explorer. So for this job you're going to need a flathead screwdriver, a ratchet and breaker bar with a 10mm socket, your new brake pads and brake hardware, and then some brake and caliper grease. If you don't know how to remove or reinstall the rear passenger side tire, please click the link on the screen. So we're gonna work on the rear passenger side wheel. So after you remove the tire, you can visibly inspect the brake pad. So you can see that this brake pad, there's actually no padding left on this brake pad. It's totally worn out. So these brake pads definitely need to be replaced. So because when you replace one side, you usually replace both sides. So you're gonna need to replace both the brake pads. We're just gonna show you how to change the brake pads on this passenger side, on the rear passenger side. But the same thing applies to the driver's side. So in order to replace the brake pads, you're gonna need to remove the brake caliper. But before you do that, we're gonna push the caliper bushing back in. We're going to use this flathead screwdriver and we're going to insert it between the brake pad and the rotor, and then we're just going to push the bushing back in. Now we want to loosen and remove the caliper pins. There's two. This is one and there's one right here. We're going to use a 10mm socket on the breaker bar. Now we're going to use a 10mm socket on a ratchet to help finish loosening these pins up. The pins removed, we're going to remove the caliper. You could use a screwdriver to help you pop this out. I'm just going to lay it here on the suspension. So now with our caliper removed, we're going to remove the brake pads. You want to keep track of how the pad goes onto the brake caliper to reduce any confusion. So we're just going to note this thing on top of here, and when you take this brake pad on, it's going to have this thing. So we're going to look for the newer piece and that matches this one and put it back on here. Now we're going to remove this other brake pad. Again, you just want to make note of how it goes. It has, this side is a little different than the bottom side. So this goes to this side, this goes towards the bottom, and then this goes on top when you're going to put the new one in. So we're just going to use a screwdriver to help us pop this thing out. It'll be a little tough to get out. Now we're gonna remove the old brake hardware that's on here. Now we're gonna install a new brake hardware. And then put what's going on top here. Now we're going to grease the brake hardware. Now we're going to install our new brake pad. So this is going to go inside the bushing, and then this is going to go towards facing the top. Now we're going to install another other brake pad. So the side with this little indent here goes on the top, and the one that's a little more smooth goes towards the bottom. You could use this brake pad to help you. So see, this is going to go towards the bottom, and then this is going to go towards the top. So this one is going to cushion just like that. Now you just want to grease your pads up a little bit. Now we're going to put our new pads on. Actually going to put the top side in first. Now we're going to grease our caliper pins up. Now we're going to put our new, not our new, but our grease caliper pin back in. We're going to use the 10mm socket on the ratchet to tighten this up. So now we pretty much finished installing our new brake pads, but it's worth mentioning that while you're doing this job, you want to check to make sure your caliper bushing is functioning correctly. And we did that in the beginning when we pushed it back in. If it didn't go back in, then that's a sign that the caliper might be bad or something else is wrong. And then our caliper pins have movement in them; they're not stiff. That's another thing that you really want to watch out for when you do your brake pads. But in this particular case, everything else was working fine. It was just a straight job. We just replaced our brake pads. Nothing else went wrong. But just want to mention that. And that's how you change your rear brake pads on a 1995 Ford Explorer.